Okay, so Dan may be late and Tracy's not making it. So the committee's all here for quorum. So we can call to order. Do I see Joe Conway? Joe? Yeah, there he is. Hey, Joe. I see Tim and Christine. Hi.
Good evening.
Christine, remind me, are you business manager for schools or finance? I forget, something like that, right?
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Bafagner. I'm the school business administrator for Wakefield.
Hi.
Hey, nice
Hi.
to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tim O'Brien is with the school department and Christine, so I'll open it up to schools. I think we'll start with the review of the school requests. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give it to you yet. Hold on. We have to approve the February 25th meeting minutes, um, which are very exciting. But if we could get a motion in a second to approve, please. This is the minutes, 7 bullet points.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from last week.
And I second that.
Roll call for approval. Shane,
I approve.
Sam,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Now we will hand it over to, oh, Dan's here. Oh, great. Okay. So Tim, I have your original request list. I can pull that up, or do you want me, you want to share something? Is what you sent originally still okay to use?
I believe that what I sent originally should still hold up.
Okay. Let me share that.
I would probably muddy the waters if I shared my screen.
Okay. Everyone see that okay?
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right, as was previously stated, I am Tim O'Brien. I'm the Director of Facilities for Wakefield Public Schools. I do see a few new faces, so it's nice to meet you all, and I appreciate you all having me back. This is my fourth time coming in front of you guys, and I genuinely appreciate everything that we've been able to get done so far. I think this is a major value add for us every year, and you know, it's been great to have the opportunity to complete some of these projects. So thank you for that. As you can see, we'll start from the top. This is a district-wide ask for a two-way radio upgrade and replacement. So we're looking for $125,000 to do that. This is part, as you may have heard me talk about before, of our district-wide crisis sort of reorganization. So as a crisis team, we're looking at, you know, where our weaknesses are as a school system and how we can sort of bolster those things and do better. Last year, we moved forward with a security camera project that has really worked out incredibly well. And this year, we're looking to kind of pad that by upgrading our ability to communicate not only school to school, but between ourselves and the public safety building as well. In the event of an emergency where we might lose cell contact or things of that nature, we want to be able to communicate directly with our emergency services. And also, our infrastructure for two-way radios in the schools is pretty archaic. So we're definitely due for an upgrade there anyways. But this would be a major improvement for us to respond to crises and just general communication in the school system. Like I said, between schools in the event of emergency, but also within the schools as well. I'll just keep moving and then maybe take questions at the end, Phil.
Yeah,
All
yeah, do that.
Okay. Moving down, we're looking at the Doll Bear Elementary Playground rubber surfacing. That's 125,000 as well. This has been on the list for a couple of years. This is the last of the rubber surfaces in town. So this would be kind of the capstone project of our playgrounds projects throughout the school systems. You may remember we had just buttoned up the kindergarten play structure at Doll Bear last year. That came out great. Really pleased with that. This again would bring us, above ADA compliance, but really welcoming anybody who is looking to play on any of our play structures in town, regardless of their ability, would be able to access our playground structures, which I think is something that we've really historically done well here in town. And like I said, this would be the kind of the capstone project on all the playgrounds in town. Moving down to Walton, this one, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. I do have a few photos that I shared with Phil that will kind of give you a better idea of what kind of condition that field is in right now. We did complete 2 years ago a new playground structure project at Walton that came out beautiful as well. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner of that picture is that rubber surface, sorry. But if you look out there beyond where they're playing soccer and things of that nature, that actually looks pretty good because it was cold, but most of that is mud at this point. So, in regards to that's a better representation of what we're looking at right now as things sort of warm up. We're just not able to send kids out there. So it's either that we're contending with mud, or when it dries out, it becomes a dust bowl. And both of those things, what happens is we end up, when we do send the kids out to play there, we drag mud straight through the building. It just becomes a maintenance issue, really. It drags mud into classrooms, onto carpets, and when you're talking about an elementary school, the kids do the best that they can to bang their feet out and wipe them off, but you're not going to get all of it. So what we're looking for is 75,000. I've spoken with Dennis Fazio with the town. We believe that this money would get us up to 100% functionality on the irrigation system, and then bring in some new surface material, and then planting some quality grass there. And what that will require is a full season of us being off of that play surface, that field, in order to, really have the grass properly take root. And we are prepared to block that off and do that. This is something that we've gotten a ton of feedback from parents and folks in the neighborhood as well, because the neighbors neighboring that field, they get some of that dirt that just blows off into the neighborhood when it's dusty up there. So we've had a lot of complaints from the neighborhood, and of course from parents who are sending their children to the Walton and they're coming home covered in mud. We've come a long way out back at Walton when it comes to play structure and those things. We have a paved surface back there as well, where kids are able to play some basketball and things of that nature. It just would be a really nice sort of icing on the cake to finish this off and make it look the way, look and function the way that it should. So that would be something we would be getting right on as soon as school lets out this school year, and get that done. Moving down to Doyle, an electrical service upgrade, we're looking for $40,000 there. So we're still functioning on a 200 amp service at Doyle. And the reality is what we really need is at least a 400 amp service, based on as that school expands and we're sort of using the building in its entirety, and we're finding that we're having some electrical issues there. Some upgrades have happened in the building in the past. It's just we're sort of outgrowing it, and we need to bring that up to speed. There's some work that'll have to be done by our own Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department, as well as internally inside the building, which brings us to that $40,000 number. We have been working with the town's contract electrician to get pricing on that, and as well as the WMGLD. What that'll allow us to do as well is the few classrooms that are left that do not have air conditioning, we'll be able to get a window unit or something of that nature, and the building will be able to handle it electrically. So that's definitely a priority for us right now. And that completes tier 1, the highest priorities for us, and then we'll move down to tier 2. At Galvin, we are looking to replace the fly system in the auditorium. What we've found is, this building is not an old building, right? That's probably the first thing that comes to your mind. The equipment as it was installed, and this is sort of secondhand for me. I don't have extensive knowledge in this area, but what the folks who work and really spend time in the auditorium tell me is that the company who installed this equipment no longer exists. And so there's another company that does employ some of the same folks who are familiar with this equipment, and we've been working with them since I've come to the schools, so the past 4 years, to try and get this thing serviceable and get the computer equipment running, and we've not been able to do that. So what we're looking to do is, excuse me, my kids are in the bath upstairs screaming. I don't know if you can hear that.
Can't hear.
Somebody's with them. It's important to know. Yeah, so thank you, Phil, for the visual there. So what we'd be looking for is something that's less dependent on the computer to function and more of a manual fly system. It's still an expensive endeavor. It's not really something we're able to accomplish on our own, that major expenditure. But we want to get it functioning for the folks who are, the students who are in those programs, and of course, for the rentability of that auditorium as well. So, it's something that's a major component that renters are looking for. And it's something that us not having a functioning fly, it hurts us on the rentability of the space. So that's a big one for us. It's been a headache, and we've really worked hard to try and identify, our best way forward before just asking for a replacement. We've been searching far and wide for somebody who could service it, and not really had any luck. Moving down to the Doyle School, again in tier 2, we are looking to place a modular building out in front of the Doyle. As I was speaking of before, we've really expanded the use of Doyle. We are kind of bursting at the seams there as far as what we're able to accept for enrollment and staff. This modular building would serve as at least 2 speech therapy rooms. Now this would be a wet unit. There would be running water and a bathroom involved here. And the way we arrived at that 885 number is by just working with a few vendors in the area based on what their square footage requirements come out to. It seems that the running cost for something like that would be about $450 a square foot for a finished building. That's them coming, installing everything, and it's a turnkey building. For reference, and this is something that we have concerns about. Naturally, we turned away 60 families at Doyle last year, just based on things that are going on in town, enrollments increasing, and we want to be able to get to a point where we're not having to turn families away. And then I believe last but not least in tier 3, that elevator badge access project at Galvin, which would basically allow us to make elevators on the first floor of the building only accessible by badge access. So that's a security measure. And so it's just something that we think makes the building more secure. And not only that, will prevent sort of the abusive use of elevators. So naturally in the building now, we have some students who are either on crutches or a wheelchair or something of that nature, and they would need like a pass to use the elevator. In this case, we'd be able to actually give them a badge that they could access the elevator with and use the elevator if they have permission to do so. And naturally, staff members would have access to it as well. We have some of the infrastructure there already. The wiring is there, which was done when the building was built. So it's not a huge project, but we think it's something that's a value add at Galvin. And with that, I am happy to take any questions you may have.
I have a question. You said that's a few dozen families were turned away. Where did they going?
To be honest with you, Frank, I don't have that that information. That was for the early education program that we offer at Doyle. It's more of a, like a pre-K program. So my imagination would say that they probably sprinkled into some of the other programs that are available around town.
Tim, any questions for Tim? On
I have-
any of these requests?
May I, yes, I'll ask a question. On the district-wide priority one, the two-way radios, how many nodes are there in that system that you propose? How many, how many radios will be on a regular basis be hooked up to it?
Sure. Dan, I don't have an exact count for you, but I can follow up with you in the morning on that. That's going to be district-wide, so we'll be replacing every radio in the district.
How many radios are there now? Do you know that?
I don't have that info off the top of my head. I can get it. I can get it to you and I will email you that information.
Okay. Then let me just follow that with I guess the next logical question. You say that this is to offer some redundancy to the communications that you would have with a telephone or with a cell phone. Are these shortwave radios independently powered so that they would, in the event of a power failure, they would not go down?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that we would run them on battery backup. Yes.
Okay. How are they adequate replacement for cell phones or landlines?
So in the event that we had a major event where cell phones may be jammed, or we may have outages, or if there was an event where we had a large amount of people all trying to communicate home at the same time, we've seen other crises in our country and in the world where cell phones have become really not useful in those situations. Also, in that event, we would have direct communication with police dispatch. If there was a scenario where somebody didn't have their cell phone with them, but they happened to have the radio, they'd be able to communicate. It's really just in the crisis reaction world. It's highly recommended to have this as a solid backup to those other options.
And Tim, could I just chime in too? We have an antiquated two-way radio system now. So I don't know if you've ever been in any of our schools. All administrators walk around with walkie-talkies. And also our before and after school programs have these radios because people are moving. They're not always in one classroom. They're not always in one area of the building. So it allows people to be in constant communication inside and outside the building. But what we're finding is they're not talking between buildings. So we're talking to this vendor to make sure that all radios can speak district wide, and it completes our our crisis safety plan, which I don't, if you remember, we installed last year our camera system throughout the school district. So now every building inside and outside is on camera. But we're in case of a crisis, communication, as we've learned, with working with our crisis vendor, communication could be completely shut down. Landlines, cell phones could be inadequate. So we've done a lot of research on this, and we really think that this is important in terms of safety for Wakefield schools. Does that help answer your question?
It does. It leaves the question open about how much redundancy you really need in a crisis. What you call the antiquated system now, you say, is the difference between that and the one you're proposing to buy is that the old one does not allow you to talk between buildings,
Correct.
Right, exactly.
and this will,
Yes,
as well as contact with the police and the fire.
yes.
Okay, that answers it.
Thank you, Dan.
Have you looked into any kind of emergency grants for the radios? Like, is there any sort of
We have.
yeah,
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
I have the Google reminders for all to target those kind of grants. I'm constantly looking at what the federal government has available for grant opportunities in this arena.
Yeah.
There isn't currently something that would provide what we're looking for.
Okay. The Dolbear, the playground, the rubber surface. So is the equipment it's just to finish the ground, or is the equipment
Correct. The-
right?
The equipment is in good shape. It's not incredibly old. It would just be the surface that we'd be looking to do in that scenario.
Okay. And the Dolbear is 2 fields, correct? They have a playground, then they have like a soccer field, right?
Correct. They have two playgrounds really. They have a kindergarten playground for the smaller kids, and then
Mhm.
this would be the elementary playground. That's at the rear of the school.
Okay. And for the Walton, and did you explore turf at all?
So we talked about turf, but based on where this field is located, it would get expensive because of the drainage. I think that would have to be added to accommodate the turf. Because I think what we'd end up with is a lot of runoff from rains and rain, snow melt and the like that would really bother the neighborhood, I would imagine. So it would have to be, we're looking, I think, over $1 million to do turf.
Yeah.
Phil,
Okay.
if I can just add my 2 cents on that too. Obviously not doing a boring or anything out there, but you could see the exposed ledge. I don't see any way you would turf that without having to hammer it quite extensively. And like
Yeah.
Tim said, I don't know if the abutters that are right on top of that would appreciate that too much.
They're probably happy that the Walton project's over and probably would appreciate not another one.
I'll defer to you on that one.
Yeah, no, I just, I worry about, like any lawn, it's a labor of love. And so it looks great for a year. But you mentioned that there's irrigation.
Correct. There's irrigation that exists. I think we just need to do a little bit of repair work to that, which I've talked to Dennis Fazio about.
Mhm.
I think the real crux in this whole thing is that we would have to really stay off of it once it's planted.
Right.
It's something we could accomplish with snow fence and maybe some like highway barriers, those type of things to really keep folks off of it.
Yeah.
But I just also like to stress about the wear and tear it's taking on the Walton building, because everything you see outside is coming inside.
Right. Right. It's a mess.
Yes.
This is,
On
go ahead.
on the playground, I know we talked about this last year. I remember having the discussion about the playground. But I guess we didn't fund fixing it last year if we're still here. But I feel like I have a vague memory of there was a problem, or this field continues to be a problem of being able to keep grass. Like the soil's not great, or there's something about
Correct.
this particular setup that it feels like a Band-Aid, like a constant needing to reapply a grass
Right. So
solution
what
to
we
this. So I like, what is there a longer term plan? I know we're saying turf is maybe a bridge too far, but like what are we looking at for this?
I think where we've fallen short in our efforts before, we've tried to just kind of rough up the surface of this mud and put in some seed or hydro seed. We've done. I think what needs to happen and what would be included in this project is removing a top layer of soil and bringing in a nice new layer of soil that will accommodate real grass. The other thing that's happened, as I was kind of talking about before, is I think we've got on it too soon. So I think we've planted grass. We start to see some seedlings, a little bit of growth, and then off we go. And we're playing soccer and booting around, and it kills the grass. So it really needs a full season to take root. But yeah, we would be looking to remove a top layer of soil and bring in a quality layer of soil before it gets reseeded, which is not something that we've done in the past.
So when would so this money gets approved July 1. Um, what is a full season of grass growth starting from July? Like when are we closing this off?
So I would defer to Dennis Fazio on the best practices of what, when the best time to plant would be. And he knows better like soil, the soil quality, all those things. But my imagination would tell me possibly end of summer would be a good time to get started there, get everything planted, and then we would stay off it for possibly even a full school year. Just to
Okay.
make sure that it's going to take hold and be there, for the future.
And then so the rubber space, the non-grass area, is that enough space for outdoor recess for the kids, or are we talking about a year of indoor recess with it?
We would be able to, because we still have the play structure and the asphalt surface. I think we could get away with it. I think that Brian Schmidt, the principal up there, would be more than happy to do whatever he had to do to accommodate this. I think it's something that's been a constant topic of conversation with parents and PTO groups and things of that nature. I think he'd be more than happy to just accommodate whatever he had to get this moving forward.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, and I realize that, I mean, that lack of field, it
Yeah.
stands out. Like, I understand
It's tough.
the issue. I think I just want to make sure that we've really hammered out on what the plan and the proposal is, so that nobody goes thinking that on September 1st there's going to be grass there and their kids won't have to worry about, like, that it's going to take real time
Absolutely.
to make sure that it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I don't know if we looked at the difference between the kind of hydro seeding that you chatted about or sod. I know sod has actually come down. So I don't know if this way we kind of have instant grass. It still has to root, but maybe then it wouldn't have to be as long.
That would certainly be an option that we would chase. Sod would be probably our best option. I agree with you 100%.
There'll be a tariff on it now.
What's that?
There'll probably be a tariff on it now.
Possibly. We saw the outfield at the new Burnett softball field at the high school go in this past fall, and that sod took beautifully, and so it's already, after the snow melted, it's already looking pretty good over there. So I would love to see sod as an option at Walton for sure.
I have a question. In FY24, we approved 240,000 for the Dolbear playground and rubber surface is what the final note was. Is that the other playground?
Yes,
Okay, so it's not like we ran out of money and didn't complete the rubber surface.
correct. That was for the kindergarten play surface
Okay.
and
And
structure.
for the Walton, would it make any sense to rubberize that area?
It's a
Like,
large,
does it need to be? Or
you
is
know,
that drainage? Are we getting into drainage again?
yeah, it would create some drainage issues. I think grass is the appropriate surface for over there. I think if you got into that square footage in a rubber surface, you're probably looking at near $500,000 there.
Yeah. We're not gonna asphalt it and paint it green like my childhood.
So why is it necessary to have a rubber surface at the Doll Bear? I know you've got them there now, but the Doll Bear is an old school. It had a real dirt playground for years.
Mhm.
So
Why is it necessary to have a rubber one?
in order
So-
to be ADA accessible, it needs to have a rubber surface.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no other, is there not another playground there? That's
There is.
rubberized already?
It's a small kindergarten playground. It's targeted towards much smaller children. So even as the kids get into the second grade,
Uh-huh.
they're sort of towering over that structure on the side. And it's also located in a different area of the building that's targeted more towards that kindergarten group.
Okay.
What is the surface now in the playground?
It is wood chips.
Oh, wood chips. Okay.
So technically, it does meet the ADA standard currently. We will see that go away soon.
Mhm.
As things change. I just think when it comes to every other play structure and surface that we have in town, they're all rubber surfaces. This is the last one left. So this is just an effort to kind of close it out and have everything be sort of uniform and similar across the board.
But given the budget constraints that we're facing just townwide, why not wait until it becomes mandatory to put the rubber surface in? If the wood chips are acceptable now, why not wait it out?
I mean, that's
More slowly than you think.
right. That's it's an interesting point. I think we've made an effort to be as sort of accessible as possible at every building. I think it's certainly one way of doing it. I think that the parents of the children at Doll Bear would probably have a differing opinion. You know,
Sure.
if we do have children at Doll Bear and Doll Bear is designated as one of our target schools for ADA accessibility, we do have folks in wheelchairs at Doll Bear, and the idea is to just try and make it as accessible as possible where we have that option throughout the rest of the district.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go.
I just if we were done with the tier one things, I did have questions about the other tiers, but
Go for it. Yeah, let's open it up to any questions for it. Yeah, I think that's fine.
yeah. So I know that a few on the other. So the elevator system, which I think was in tier three, right? Like
Mhm.
toward the bottom. I remember having a discussion about this again last year. Um, I understand the desire for security purpose, but like, are we getting joy rides in the elevator? Like how many up and downs are we getting out of the elevator that we feel like that's a necessary investment to preserve the life of the elevator or risk of insurance? Like what's the other driver besides this is a nice add-on that we could do?
Sure. So naturally, like you said, Samuel, the security aspect of it is the most important. Second to that is, I remember how I was in middle school, and I'm walking through that place every day, and they try to, like I was mentioning before, they try to limit the use of the elevator. We don't, want kids just like you said, joyriding up and down. Yes, that does factor into wear and tear on the elevator, but I think there's an effort to keep it available for folks who need it for accessibility reasons rather than, I don't feel like walking up the stairs today. I'm just going to hop in the elevator because I can and jet to the second floor. Yes, this is a nice to have, certainly, and we recognize that.
Mhm.
It's something that some of the infrastructure was already laid out for us when the building was built, and I think the reason that it didn't get included was probably some budget constraints in the original build of the building, and it's just a piece of functionality that we would like to have for those reasons.
And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we did our building assessment with our security consultant, wasn't this a recommendation?
It was one of the
From-
recommendations, absolutely, from the Ed Davis company, who did a full security review of all schools in the district, and that's sort of given us our roadmap to, the safest and most secure schools that we can be.
Mhm.
Right.
Do the other school buildings, I assume they all have, if they're multi-floor, like the high school has an elevator, do those have badge access on them as well? Or is this a pilot and we're just doing it at the Galvin because it's the newest?
Yeah, so I think that currently there's only, let's see, I'm just making sure I'm not misspeaking. We don't really have this issue based on location of an elevator in other buildings. So we have 2 elementary school buildings with elevators, but the elevators aren't as accessible to you as you walk in the front door. The interesting thing about the Galvin is that right inside both the community entrance and the main entrance, our elevator doors are right there. So for example, we have an elevator at Woodville, but you have to get inside the building and then really get into the center of the first floor hallway to gain access to an elevator. So it's less of a risk factor there. The high school, naturally, we have elevators there, 2 elevators. We're rebuilding the high school. The new high school will have badge access to the elevators installed as part of the project. And so it's just that's a direction that we're moving based on, I think age is a factor at Galvin, and definitely location of the elevator in the building.
Okay, so this is more, God forbid, gunman comes in the building, the elevator's right there, easy access to the second floor.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Then to move off of that, the modular building, you said that would be 2 language learning rooms?
Correct.
Okay. And that's supposed to help alleviate classroom pressure by having 2. I don't, the language learning class, those aren't full-size classes, right? That's a special education, separate, a handful of kids at a time type space, right?
Right. So what it would allow us to do is sort of reorchestrate the way we have the building set up in its current form, move some of those services outside of the original footprint of the Doyle right now, and which would free up some classroom space and we'd be able to accommodate more students enrolling each year. Doug Lyons might be able to speak more eloquently on how we would reappropriate those classrooms but if anyone's driven by the high school project where Bond has their trailer on the corner of Hemlock Road and Farm Street, it would almost be a carbon copy of that. It's like a double wide trailer type of a setup. We would definitely be able to fit more than just 2 speech therapists there. And that they may decide if this project moves forward that they have a better, it might be a full classroom that would inhabit that modular building. But what it does is just gives us options to expand a bit and accommodate more families who are trying to enroll their children.
Yeah, I can also expand on that. So since the pandemic, the need for pre-K services really has escalated because a lot of we're talking about students between the ages of 3 and 5, so right before they go to kindergarten. So a lot of pre-K facilities in the area closed. So we saw our demand for the Doyle School skyrocket since the pandemic. Also, that with the population of Wakefield growing, we've had a waiting list for the Doyle preschool program. So this is also for preschool students, but it's also has we are required to provide services for students before they enter kindergarten if they require some special ed, the speech and language services that Tim was talking about. So right now, this Doyle is really busting at the seams. Last year, we turned away 60 families that would have been tuition paying, right? That's revenue to the town. This year, we have a waiting list of 45 families. So again, in terms of tuition, we're turning that away. We don't have the space. We've opened 2 preschool classrooms at the Woodville School because we found 2 classrooms that could house them. But other than that, we have no available space for these 45 extra classrooms, which really means about 2 extra classrooms, 45 extra students. So we were brainstorming with the town, with Steve Mayo and Doug Lyons, the superintendent, about what we could do. And we did some investigation about a modular building. Now we know that number is extraordinarily high, but you're talking about basically going out to bid to put a building next to the current structure. But we thought, other than doing an ad reno to the Doyle, this might be a solution for that.
And where would the modular go on the property?
So if you're looking at an overhead,
I have an overhead on my other screen.
I assumed. It would be directly in front of the building. We'd actually have to relocate the flagpole to place it.
Okay. I was thinking that maybe it would be that flagpole spot.
Yep. That would really be the only place it would work.
Okay. It wouldn't be across the parking lot like next to those trees or anything like that. Okay.
No, we couldn't even give up one space there.
No.
The follow-up then with the Doyle is how long of a lifespan are we looking for at that building, right? Does this modular buy us that we would use it for 5 years and then you're going to come to us and say this building is falling apart and we need to tear it down and build new? Or is this, we don't have to worry about the building for another 20 years? Let's take classroom pressure and further development in town out of the status quo, everything else. Like, where is the building's lifespan right now?
Sure, and I think really it would be on my shoulders to make sure that this building got properly maintained, so that we would, my imagination tells me we should be able to get at least 10 years out of this thing. Like you said, barring population growth and other other considerations. I mean, this is something we should at least get 10 years out of. And looking at these things and having them on site at the high school, I've sort of learned a little bit more about modulars and the right way of maintaining them, that sort of thing. Especially this being a wet unit. We would make sure, as we do with all our buildings, to try and be good stewards and make sure that it's well taken care of, so it would last as long as we needed it.
And I think Tim and I would be remiss if Doug Lyons was on this call right now, he would insist that we look district-wide about what's happening in Wakefield and the demands on our elementary schools, which are full, and the demands on our pre-K school, which now is turning away students, and the demand in Wakefield to possibly look at another building, another facility. We are so excited and thankful about the high school, but that's not really where our bubble is right now. Our bubble is with pre-K and elementary. So it's just something that we're gonna be talking more about. Doug has talked about maybe an ad reno at the Greenwood School. So we just really this is a problem for Wakefield in general. And this is just, brainstorming about what we can do in the near future to help alleviate some of that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, and I realize that I'm uh grilling you on an $800,000 thing versus, we're not talking about doing $100 million on a ad reno. Like I understand that there's a huge difference, um, but I just want to do a little due diligence and ask some
Mhm.
questions.
We certainly appreciate the question, Sam. Honest to God. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
We
good to
do.
have the back and forth. These are things that we've been talking about for a long time, and it's good to be able to be here and chat with you about it.
Now the Yule School, which I don't believe is under the purview of the school department anymore because it's town, but it is a school that the town owns. They're on the list that we get for major capital repairs, and there's a tenant in there.
Mhm.
Having been in the Doyle for 2 years with one of my children, there's tons of limitations to the existing school in the site alone with the elevation and the fields and just where you could put these modulars. So I have a concern that modular is not solving the problem of everything that was mentioned. It's maybe a drop in the hat to what's going to be needed for preschool, but and it's a big ask. You understand our budget constraints, and I know you have to
Absolutely.
ask. It's understood about the constraints for sure because it's not a very large building as it is, and I know the gymnasium's been kind of maxed out. I think classrooms as well. So
Right.
I've just
And,
recently built two. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, we recognize that, Phil. We just really wanted to stress that this needs to be on everyone's radar.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, does the school department, do you have like do you have a capital plan you could like in terms of your schools and enrollment projections of where you see the biggest needs? Because the Greenwood, I've been living in Wakefield for 15 years and the Greenwood project is always the next project, and then something else like the high school or Galvin High School. So the Greenwood's an obvious project. The Doyle, right? Like do you have an outlook on how the high school's being built, but that's out 3 years at this point till that project's complete. Uh, what do to spend 800 here, is that money that could have gone towards a higher priority, bigger project for the district for one of the other bigger schools, I guess.
I mean,
Um,
I
where do you
think,
see this slotting in, I guess?
Phil, are you
yeah.
asking for whether they have a capital plan or not?
Well, it's sort of a capital, like, what's their vision? I know no one's wizards with wands for the future here, but like, or maybe Tim is. I don't know if he's a wizard, but
Definitely not.
like where do you see like the biggest need? Like, this is a lot of money for not a lot of gain. Like modular buildings, for that site aren't going to give you. It's not, someone just mentioned, it's not going to answer the questions of turning people away at the Doyle, which were turning people away when I was there 8 years ago. I don't know how many, but it seemed, I thought it was always turning people away because it's so small. So I'm just wondering, like in terms of this ask, like next year, if this doesn't get approved, what would be your approach? Would you prioritize this as a school department and go for funding for this in some other way? Or would you pause and possibly look at another project that you would want to pick up and prioritize?
Well,
Sure.
we don't have a capital account at the school department. Tim is our facilities director, and we tasked him with maintaining 7 buildings with $150,000 maintenance account, which he does magic. He does remarkably well. I think the need for space for the school department is a real concern. Just to go back to the Doyle, that is one of our revenue generating programs. So I understand it's a lot of money, maybe not a big return on investment, but we need to respond to that program as it's growing. But definitely I can see the Greenwood ad reno. I know Doug was talking about starting a statement of interest within the year or two. So if I have Tim's magic ball, I would say, Tim, that's probably our next project that's coming.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about mostly. Doug and I have frequent conversations and talk a lot about our facilities master plan. And on that plan is the Greenwood as being the next major project. like Christine said, we've discussed a statement of interest that we'd be submitting to the MSBA for something like that. So we're sort of in the planning phases of that, and making sure that we have all our ducks in a row, and we're really ready to get all that information together and submit it. I think we've learned a lot from this high school project for sure, and we can kind of use some of that knowledge to move forward and develop best practices to apply for a Greenwood project.
And what about
And with
collaboration with the town, if I may, like with again existing structures? Because one thing we don't have, and we learned this when we were exploring DPW options, is we don't, in the high school, we don't have a ton of land to build anything on, right?
Sure.
Like Wakefield's tight. So, but we have, again, the Yule School. There's the school, I don't know the name of it, up by the lake.
The herd.
The herd, like there are existing structures that were schools that would have to be totally renovated, understood, like they're not,
Sure.
they're not move-in ready. But has there been exploration with the town on utilizing those spaces for the needs, for the space needs?
Absolutely. Those conversations have been had. I think that Yule currently is under lease for at least another year or so. I don't know where we're at in those conversations. Those are mostly conversations between Doug and Steve and at that level. So those are wonderful options in my eyes. I would love to do a project like that. It'd certainly be a viable option, one that we would certainly entertain. We're looking at any and all options at this point, Phil.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, what is the tuition at the Doyle? Is it like 4,000 or 5,000?
It's $7,000 for 5 days a week.
Okay. So, and you said it'd be an extra roughly 45 kids.
Well, this year we turned away 60 families, and next year we have a waiting list of 45.
How many do you service now?
We have 10 classrooms, and they are completely full. We also, at the Doyle, so that's over 200 children. We also have 2 classrooms at the Woodville School that are Doyle preschool children. So we were able at the Woodville to find 2 classrooms to have almost like a satellite facility. So we have 12 preschool classrooms, and they're completely full.
Do you have a sense of how many additional students we can add with the modular building?
So as Tim said, the idea would be to use that for the contracted. So we need to provide speech, OT, PT, all these services. So the idea would be to put that in the modulars. So then we can expand the classrooms and keep all the students in the school in their classrooms together. So it would be a reconfiguration, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, of what the plan would be, but to put all those outside providers in the modular. So again, the plan would be to expand it by 2 classrooms. Again, we've gotten some quotes, we've looked at the different size modulars, but that was the plan, is to have the service providers who are our staff members, but in the modulars versus the classrooms.
So
How many per classroom?
I'm sorry.
Depending on the ADA needs of the students in the classroom, it could be anywhere to 20 to 22.
I think a fair estimate would be that we'd be able to fit at least 1 additional classroom inside the Doyle footprint with the additional space.
So is this necessarily increasing capacity at the school, or no? It's more just reconfiguring the
It would add
services?
at least 1 classroom to the space.
Okay.
Has anybody looked at the cost of doing a sufficient rehab of the herd to, as a substitute for this idea? Because it would be a longer term than 10 years if you were able to do that.
That would be a great option. We have not gotten, quotes for a project of that nature. my concern based on the age of that building would be asbestos, of course, and you know, we could get into large costs on something like that. I think that it would be, you know, in the tens of millions to do a rehab there.
Yikes.
Yeah, I would guess those old buildings are probably gut rehab projects
Yep.
when the time comes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I just had two just to confirm. So again, just to confirm currently, the elevators at the Galvin are there. I know there's no badge, but there's no key or anything, so anybody can go up and down on those elevators. Is that correct? Okay. And then if I, pardon my ignorance too, I don't know what a fly system is. I mean, does it keep out flies? I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
It's the curtain. The curtain system. So you have multiple layers of curtain on the stage in the auditorium.
Okay.
This enables, and I'm probably somebody who is in these production, you know, would probably be horrified at my explanation, but you know, you'd be able to open and close the curtain. You'd be able to do a drop curtain for projections and things of that nature. It's just what you would see in any theater for a curtain system.
So I know the curtains open and close now, I guess, right? So you're saying it'd be an additional one that would come down and up? Is that?
We don't currently have a curtain that functions at all. So this would be a total replacement of the existing curtain, which is a computerized system. We'd be looking at a manual system where, you know, students and staff would be trained to operate it. And so it just would be a fully functional fly system. Rather than what we have now, we have one vendor who's able, when we need them to lower the fly when we have certain productions. And so we have to pay them to come and assist us with that. And then again, when we need to put it back up and those, you know, things of that nature. It's a production whenever we have to manipulate it at all.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
For the electrical service upgrade at Doyle, can you give us a sense of, you know, like how often are they having electrical issues? I know you mentioned that a couple of the classrooms don't have AC, but just looking for more color on that.
So a couple of years back, we completed a full commercial kitchen install at Doyle. We needed to be able to provide hot food to the students there. So naturally that brings in some kitchen equipment. Which is a draw on the electrical service at the school. And so in addition, we have a tankless water heater there as well. So when you get into using all of these components at the same time, when the building's inhabited, we end up losing power at times. You know, it's just, we are right on that edge where the building can't handle what we're throwing at it. And an upgrade to a 400 amp service or larger, if we were able to, would really just get us to a you know, a level of functionality that we desperately need in that building right now.
And what I'm ignorant on electrical projects. Is this sort of
like, for the most part?
Yeah. Is this like a quick project that would take, you know, whatever, a week or so, or is it?
Yeah, I think in under a week, we'd be able to accomplish it. I think that most, you know, 99% of the background work could be completed. And then it would be like a Saturday where we do a switch over. That's how it's been presented to me. You know, you can get all the background, you know, get all the background work done and then only have to shut the building down when we're switching over. And then we're back online for Monday, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Would this be sized appropriately for the modular additions? Like, would this be enough amperage if the modulars did happen? Because this would be the time to do it.
The modular would get its own service.
It would have a separate service.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
And I hate not to ask this again. Sorry. I'm trying to get a sense of like any potential return on investment for the modular building. So do we have sort of an idea of like, would there be extra students or no? I know you said in the classroom, there would be.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'd be able to, like I was saying, at least, and you know, I'm not somebody who's involved with enrollment and those sort of things, but the way I see it, we'd at least be able to get one 20-child classroom online, which would, bring in those additional 20 um, tuitions every year.
Okay. So like 20 kids, 7 grand, 140K a year times 10-year useful life, 1.4, not including, I'm sure it's not going to be 7 grand forever, but that's helpful.
Right. And of course, that number could be larger, but I don't believe it would be smaller than that.
Well, I'm sure the tuition won't go down. That's for
But
sure.
that's right. No.
No, it won't.
Mhm. Any
Phil,
other?
I'm gonna have to step away,
Yes,
family responsibility at 8 o'clock.
got it.
So
Thanks,
I,
Dan.
talk to you. We'll see you on Thursday.
We'll follow up Thursday. Yep.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ted.
you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Tim or Christine?
We really appreciate your time. We understand everyone's in a budget crisis. This is what I do all day long. You get more requests than you get revenue. And we try to understand that. That is really why we tiered our requests. I don't know if everyone does that for you, but really our top priorities are at the top. You would make it if you could just grow the grass at the Walton School, number one, that would really make Tim's life a lot. I'm just gonna really go out there on a limb. And the Dole Bear, the rubber surface, like really our top tier is, they're all important, but the top tier for us would really be accommodating for us and make quality of life for our staff and students so much better. That's my little pitch, but thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we really feel like those are the feel-good projects, right? Playgrounds and areas where kids play is the best thing for us. I mean, when you go to these ribbon cutting ceremonies and you see the kids, how psyched they are to go out there and play, it just kind of brings it full circle, makes all the work that goes on behind the scenes worth it, And like Christine said, we appreciate your partnership and everything we've kind of accomplished together so far. So thank you for all of that.
Okay, thank you.
You
Everything
got
you
it.
have to do too. Okay,
All righty.
thanks.
Great.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You.
Take care.
Too.
Thanks.
Joe Wakefield, you're on. Sorry, that's going to be a name forever now. I'm sorry.
You're not the only one.
Some consultant named Joe Conway, Joe Wakefield in a report, and I find it absolutely hilarious. Okay. Any discussion about schools, or do we want to have Joe start his list? Do I want to talk schools at all while it's fresh, maybe, or what do you think? Joe, do you have a current list you could pop up?
I do.
Just as far as
Oh,
order,
well, you know
Phil, I
what?
mean,
Why don't I bring up their school department list so we can have it in front of us again, just to have it.
Can you just allow me to share,
Yeah,
Phil,
and I'll do that as well. 1 second.
when we get to that point?
Sorry, I got like everyone in my house on internet, it seems right now. So I am my computer is slow. Okay, Joe Conway, where are you? Okay, you should have the power.
Thank you.
Mm,
I don't have Tim's letter, but I have like
I
the
got-
master roll up if you want me to share it, or I'll
I'll
wait.
pull up just yeah, I guess just to start here, we've been staring at it, but I think everyone are there any comments, any proposals from the group to green light or red light or yellow light any of these?
Before we say that, I just want to note that the modular building in the spreadsheet is only at 800,000 and the request is at 885.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Who's more current?
yeah. I don't know. I would probably use the higher number at this point, but
Yeah, I just updated that, so that'll be changed the next one you see.
okay. Um, I did question. I'll start. So I'm going to start tier 2. I have a tough time with this fly system. This is the
Yeah.
curtain system. I did manage, Bond is on, I'm on another committee, so I'm working with Bond on the high school. So I had access to the super, and he pulled the submittal. So, the system, the company did go out of business. Someone else did buy it. They are having trouble. So they are having trouble finding people maintain or run it. Really, it's a computerized motor. It sounds like on all these curtains, but I'm having a tough time thinking that this is an approval for such a new system. I really feel there's got to be a solution to learn how to work the system. I can't believe it's broken, being it's so new, or if it's rather just inability to use it is a different reason. So I'm having a tough time with the fly system for that reason.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess I'm still not fully understanding it all, but
Can you
yeah.
see? Can you see this? Did you just see a change in the screen?
Yep,
Yes.
I see that. Yep.
So yeah, this is these are tough to read. So this is if you're standing in like this, stage right or whatever, looking through. So these are all the curtains.
Okay.
Right? This is the crot, and these are all the ropes that control them. So the fly system is this whole system that controls how these curtains move up and down and around. So this whole like rigging up here connecting is the fly system.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's
Oh yeah, see,
basically,
I guess in my mind, yeah, I'm thinking that was all manual. So this is all computer operated, but we don't know how to
Mhm.
use the computer.
yeah, like again, this is a top down. You can just see there's different curtain lines and whatever.
Mhm.
And as Tim was
Got it.
saying, they don't even use them now. There is a comment in the submittal that the control system was changed to this Vortec from this Pro series. So it is a computerized control system that controls this. How that works and what that actually means, I have no idea. But there's obviously it's an electronic, and I think Tim did mention this is computerized. So
Mhm.
this would be the place to go. Whether or not Vortec is the one, I know this company. This is the company I believe that went out of business, and someone sort of bought all their. What happens? Someone else came in
Sure.
Mhm.
and bought
Yeah.
everything of theirs. And there's like one person that maintains it. So that's what I've been able to sort of dig up since I saw this.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's too big of an ask for such a new building. Yeah, we got to find another solution for it. That's my take as well.
I I think every tier 2 and tier 3 should be cut just for the purposes of the numbers are too big and we have a lot to squeeze into 2 million. But the as far as the fly system, frankly, when I was told that it was a computerized system, I understood more why it needed to be replaced because I'm sure it's already an unbelievably complex system. Just
Hmm.
looking at the having been on a stage, looking at all the ropes and stuff, I'm like, I have no idea how anybody figured out how to do this in the first place, right? Like, what mistakes and errors were made
Right.
when people first made theaters that this all came together? But like to the computerized system, I just feel like that there's probably software bugs and other stuff, and an engine isn't working, and it would just be easier if it was just a regular old pulley
Right.
and some high school kid who's getting paid the $11 an hour or whatever to just pull it for the present for the week for tech week and the show. Like I feel like that's probably the better longer term maintenance solution. So I understand why it probably needs to be replaced. Like it was like, oh, it made sense. We're building a new thing. We'll go with computers. Somebody in the
Right.
back will just press a button and it'll be awesome. And I just feel like that there's probably too many moving parts, and that's why it's prone to
Yeah.
had a shorter life than expected. But I think
And
it's a
again,
lot
not
to
not
ask
to
for.
spend too much time on this either, but I've gone to the plays. I mean, the curtains all seem to work, right? They go up and down, they open and close. I don't, so I know in the plays they all seem to work. So I don't know what they're doing to make them work at the different presentations I've been to. But they certainly seem to be working there.
I think Tim
So
was saying they hire somebody to come and actually
to
do
do
all
that.
of that stuff. So
Okay.
they're
All right.
hiring a professional to come in to do it.
Okay.
And, they'd just rather not.
Okay.
But
Um, I'm comfortable with giving them most of what they want in tier 1 because I think there is a apparent demand for improving the play area and the rubber surfacing. And I would imagine that the parents would be very concerned with security, and the two-way radio seems like a decent ask on their behalf.
We've been, like, historically, not for any written rule, this committee has just tried to do a playground a year. And I look back and I think FY20, since FY20, the only year we didn't do one was 21, but that was during the whole COVID era. I think we had to cut half of our approved, 2 million to 1 million, and the thing got cut and moved to 22. So doing two in 1 year would obviously a little be more than what we've approved in the past, but it would take care of the remaining, we wouldn't have to push either of these to another year if we could find room to get these approved this year. Um, I I did text my kids real quickly about the elevator badge and the Galvin, and they said tons of kids use the elevator all day.
Now,
So
interestingly enough, for 15,000, I mean, unless we come up 15,000 over, I'm almost fine with the elevator badge access. I think that's a small ask.
yeah.
Again, if I just had to kind of rule, me personally, I'd say I'm okay with tier 3, tier 2, I'd wipe out. And then tier 1, I guess I would do all except, to your point, take one of the playgrounds out. And I'd say the grass seems more important than the rubber. Because the wood chips are currently ADA compatible, right? So I say do the grass, but not the rubber.
They are. I think it's been
I,
explained
I
that
would, I would, I would
sorry, Frank.
disagree. I would disagree. I think that we need to finish, we've been doing one a year, and I think we need to bring some closure to the play areas, playgrounds. I don't think it's a really big ask. I'm looking at the grass area and fencing, at the Walton. I just think what Phil pointed out, we do one of these a year. Let's just complete the cycle.
Be done with it. Yeah, my only pause at Dolbear was that, right, that the wood chips are ADA, they're just really unruly. And I'd imagine if someone who was in a wheelchair or had some mobility issue, walking on a rubber surface is going to be a lot easier than trying to get through wood chips. Whether it's acceptable or not, I'm thinking just the functionality of rubber would allow maybe more accessibility, to some, on that level. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's
You all think.
2025, and we need to be up to speed on all ADA requirements. I mean, that we've let this go for years is amazing. And I know I brought up the arts building on Albion Street. That needs to be ADA compliant, uh, irrespective of what the developer next door does. So I think that should be a priority of this committee to really make an effort. I know we have in the past, but to continue and sustain an effort to make all our buildings ADA compliant, buildings and playgrounds.
Thanks, Frank. Garrett, what are you thinking?
I agree about the rubber surfacing at the Dolbear. I think if they all have them, we should do it. I think it's a lot cleaner, it's safer. It's another thing that parents will like. I think the grass at the Walton would be great, especially if it's executed the way we're hoping it is. I think my only reservation is kind of, if they've tried this in the past, is it going to be successful? But as long as they're confident that they can get the grass in there, I think that solves a lot of issues and makes it functional again. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then that's $200K for the schools, which is, I think, very reasonable. I think one thing that was sort of surprising to me in their explanations of everything was, to me, it almost feels like the elevator badge access might be almost more important than the two-way radios.
Right.
I like if it were me, I might have put that in tier one and the radios in tier three. There's obviously a huge difference in cost as well. I think I don't want to, dismiss any importance on safety, but if they already have a radio system, this is kind of a reserve. And I didn't get the sense that this was a must have this year, but
Well, I think the point that they were making, Garrett, is that it's external, that it connects with other, it's district wide, correct me if I'm wrong. And they see, that gives them another level of comfort. Um, I would think that, since everyone has a cell phone and this, that, cell phones could work in a crisis situation. But that doesn't comfort enough people.
Yeah, I think they reference a crisis consultant. Joe, you know about that? Is that correct? That they brought someone in to audit all the school systems in case there was a crisis, or is that what that was
Yeah,
referencing? Do you know?
so I have an elementary understanding of it. I wasn't part of it, but essentially, it's the Ed Davis Company. He was the police commissioner in Boston. He's been on WBZ for years now since his retirement. He is a consulting firm that'll go in and take a look at schools and stuff like that and give administrations kind of a plan to take away some of the soft spots and harden what they can. I know the cameras was part of it, and the badge access, we all learned tonight, was another actionable item that was generated from that.
Thanks.
to me, the badge access seems kind of like an easy.
Yeah.
It's an easy green, just,
Yeah.
it's $15,000, and that does actually seem like it could be a pretty decent security breach, especially given that they're right at the front door. And the radios, I understand too.
Joe, you want to pull up your list?
Yeah, 1 second.
Right. Frankly, Frank L, like what's your experience with Walton in that field? Do you think this plan is because it is a mud pit now, like you
Yeah.
can't leave it now. I can't imagine that the staff at that school appreciate that, but
It's
it's
a
just
it's
yeah.
a nice to have, but probably more than the rubber surfacing at the Dolby. I would put it above that rubber surfacing.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, it makes a mess. I mean, they made it a little extreme. With the mud and with the getting it all over and ruining the floors. Obviously, they stay off it. If it's muddy, they don't let the kids run in the mud and bring them in schools. But it would be nice because that would expand their play area, almost double the size. But there could be other options that, if they didn't get it, they could do. I think you definitely need to do the service upgrade at the Doyle. That's definitely capital for our needs. Hey, Joe, is that a outside contractor or is that the in-house cost?
You mean the Walton?
No, the Doyle
Doyle-
upgrade.
Oh, the
The
electrical.
electrical.
Oh, the service. I think you said
Yeah.
surface. Yeah, I got you. The electrical service. Yeah.
Joe,
No,
is that a outside cost?
yeah, that's probably our electrician meaning the one that we have under contract. I'm sure the switch gear and everything like that's probably pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know if that requires a transformer either. I would think they'd probably want to get to like 480 or something, but that would probably be somebody else.
Yeah.
But Michael would do a 100 amp, 200 amp, all day long. But I think with the speed and everything that they need this to have happen, it makes more sense to bring somebody in for it.
Yeah. No, I didn't know if it was one of those 40 grand and Mike can do it, or would it be 100 grand if we brought someone in? So it's 40 grand to bring someone in to do it.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. So I like that. I'm all in favor of that because yeah, you are gonna need power in that building if they want to grow. The modular buildings, obviously, that's out of our league. If they want to do something like that, they shouldn't be asking us. It's like a fire engine. We can't supply a fire engine.
Yeah, I
But that
also
sounds,
wonder. I also wonder if it hits the threshold that it becomes a permanent building committee project.
it is. You know, Reading did it, I want to say 10 years ago, all three elementary schools added a modular building. My company, we worked on those projects, and those were a pretty big thing. Those are like building new buildings, except you didn't have to build them. You water, sewer hookups,
Right.
foundation, piers and everything. So it's pretty much permanent building,
Yeah.
um, but
Okay.
that's my 2 cents on, and then the doll bear rubber surfacing. I mean, the playground's intact. Joe, am I wrong thinking that how is a wheelchair going to get out to that service? Would they need a four-wheel drive wheelchair to get out there if it was ADA compliant?
So that's my only comment on that. I'll
Yeah.
have somebody from our group do a quick survey of that just to make sure that you have a ADA accessible path to get to an ADA accessible playground. Because I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's it, picturing that area, it seems like they wouldn't be able to get out there anyways.
So there's a slope to it. What I'm not familiar with is the grade of the slope, and then I don't know where the handicap parking is in relation to that, and if it may need to move. So I'll have the folks next door take a look at that. Then we'll have an answer for Wednesday when we meet.
Okay. Do you want to if you can pull up the list, maybe we can throw some colors or decisions on some of these school things, and then maybe Joe, maybe we can start. Maybe you can go over fleet and some of your requests tonight before it
Sure.
gets. Yeah.
Let's see.
I'll say just to keep it easy, I'm happy to go with the majority, and sounds like we kind of all could agree on doing everything in tier 1 and tier 3 and not doing tier 2. I guess just to summarize it real quick, if everyone likes that, I'm okay with that.
I mean, the elevator badge, I could do without, but, I think we should do all of the tier 1.
I like all the tier one stuff. Um, my another thought. It doesn't seem like we're going towards the modular building, and that's a huge amount. But
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I know that the first meeting we kind of talked about, financing some things. Like, is that an option? Like, what would that look like? It's probably still too large to even consider, but the one appealing thing I will say to the modular building is that it actually, it would bring in additional revenue to the town and have some sort of a ROI to it, but um, obviously it's a huge ask.
I still like to see those numbers though. How much it would bring in.
They said,
Yeah, 20 additional kids, right, at 7,000 a year, so 140,000 a year.
yeah, and
Yeah.
she said the useful life is 10 years, so that would be 1.4
Yeah.
million, probably realistically closer to 2.
Yeah, they
It-
still
it-
have operating costs too. They still have to hire teachers, and there's other things. It's not
Right.
100% of those fees don't go to a modular building.
Yeah.
Right.
I worry that it's close to 50% of our budget.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
outside of additional classrooms and return on investment, I just looking at our budget and the number of requests we haven't started even cutting yet. Like I would punt it from our wheelhouse at least. And they're welcome to do a warrant article or take some other initiative to try to make it happen because it's an obvious need. We're the obvious first step because we're the capital committee. I'm just concerned that it would eat up almost half of our budget.
Yeah.
I think where you're going with it though, Garrett.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thinking.
Are we ready to color code some of the school department?
I don't know, Joe. What do you want to scroll down?
You can see the where my mouse is moving.
Yeah, I can see.
All right, with the blue.
Yeah, so where are we? Schools. So they didn't, so all the other
Yeah,
Oh, so all these other ones are DPW. So even though it says school, Yule School, Gavin School, though most of those are DPW requests because it's not school department, correct?
Yeah, it's that
Okay.
overlap between the
Yeah.
two of us, really.
I
gotcha.
think electrical, I'd say like
Green.
electrical service makes sense.
Yep.
All the T1s, I think. What was there's one of the T1s, is it the
The
Dolbear
two-way radio.
or two-way radio, like I think that makes sense. I think if there was ever a crisis and
Yep.
they needed to get in touch with other buildings, cell phones or not, I think having the two-way radio makes a lot of sense.
Just,
Yep.
And it was
just
a
on
recommendation.
that too, we did that at the DPW. I think Tim was still here when we did it. We went from not being able to hear people, across Main Street to I could take a portable radio out past Worcester and talk to you in Wakefield.
Right.
So,
Um, you
And
know,
then the rubber cert, right? Yeah, those two T1s there too, I think we're fine with, right? 83 and 85. I think we agree with as well.
yeah, the only thing that causes me pause is the Dole Bear. If we're in a crunch at the end of our
Yep.
conversations, um, and we had to find some six-figure asks to remove to get to our, that probably be one of the ones to, and prioritize the Walton over it. But if we could fit it into the plan, to Frank's point, like it would be great to close the loop and to get the rest of the playgrounds done. It just comes down to a matter of the bottom line,
Well,
really. So
I agree. So do we want to make that yellow then or a green with an asterisk?
yeah, keep it. Then we're at I don't know, make it a yellow.
Right. And then the other Waltons are green.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
works for me.
I think the Walton Field's a disaster.
The elevator badge access I couldn't find on this list, and then I'm looking at yours, Joe, and I don't see Maple Way Playground on mine.
that's new. I got that one from the
Okay.
town administrator today.
Okay.
Maple Way Playground.
Sorry, I'm just reading through it faster than you guys probably are.
I see it. Line 73. Yeah.
Yeah. Geez, Shane, your eagle eye.
Yeah. Like,
Oh, there it is.
like are we okay saying green? Do we want to make that yellow?
Only because it's 15, I'm okay with it being green, but
Yeah.
again, it's up to the majority, whatever you guys all think.
I mean,
I'm not.
it's something that can wait till next year. I mean,
We punted it last year. I'm just adding that.
Yeah.
I'm not making that as a argument for or
Okay.
they did ask for it last year and we punted it.
I'm not entirely convinced by it. I'm just not sure.
I mean, it's excuse me, Sam, isn't it
Mhm.
isn't it school policy that could be implemented so that they don't abuse it?
Yeah, well, they have
Or is it, if
policies
it's open for
they have
one,
a
it
lot
has to
of
be open for everyone?
they have a lot of policies that it's tough to enforce all of them. The administration of
Yeah.
the policy at the end of the day. I worry about misuse of the elevator and breaking it, which it could be very expensive. So the less it gets used, the better for the elevator. And if people are using it on a regular basis or misusing it, or they don't want kids for safety reasons be able to get in it, then I think 15 grand is a small ask. But it's a tier 3 request, so I'm not bowled over by a priority on it either.
How
I'm
about
also
yellow?
thinking from, I think Garrett brought it up too, just from a safety standpoint, right? I mean, heaven forbid, or maybe it was Sam. Just if somebody wants to get to a different floor quick without using the stairs, it might be a safety concern too. But
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Right.
guess I'm thinking about my own high school from where I grew up. The stairs to the second floor were right at the main entrance. So like access to a second floor right from the get-go doesn't register to me as an inherent threat relative to the danger that already is posing on the ground floor. Like I'm not like that. The security push on it makes less sense to me than just we want the elevator to only be used 10 times a day because it
Right.
only has 5,000 up and downs in it per, whatever cycle, like
Life or whatever,
that,
yeah.
like that, the maintenance thing,
Right.
I find a more compelling argument versus
Yeah.
we want it to be harder to get to the second floor because the cafeteria right across from the doorway is not already a major target anyway. Like that's my
Yeah.
thinking.
Sure,
But
sure.
Right.
So we'll be making it yellow.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Sure.
Again, for members who have done this, we do, and by our next meetings, we're begging, or we're looking for stuff to cut to get to our numbers. So I think yellows are
Sure.
fine, and it gives us things to concentrate on if we need to go back. It'll give
Mhm.
us some line items to quickly review.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Then is there a decision on any of these ones?
I
No.
I would propose no on tier 2, like everyone, like most people
Mhm.
I think have
Yeah,
said tonight.
I agree. I'd make them both red.
Yeah.
Unless anybody opposes.
No, I think we have to zero those out, and hopefully they explore the modular building in some other way. It's an obvious need.
Yes, any?
I have a set 3.5 million more to cut. So
Okay, well, good. It's Joe's turn then. Good job, Joe. Okay, Joe. Let's.
Fire truck put a dent in it though. That was good.
Okay. I guess I'll just start at the top and work my way through it if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's yeah, your call. Start with fleet, or how do you want to? Well, I guess yeah, go for
We've
fleet.
been
Let's get through that.
we've been pretty building centric. I'll give you a quick like 50-cent tour on fleet. I was hoping that Wednesday I could come in and give you something better. So one of the challenges this year that's a little bit new is there's a hesitancy on a lot of places to give us numbers on trades just because of upfit time and different things like that being kind of unknown. So the wholesalers want the vehicles that are getting traded immediately, but we can't release them until we have the replacement registered and on the road. So there's an intermediate time where, they're committing to a dollar figure and, from their view of the world, they're saying, well, every day that I don't have it, it's depreciating more and I potentially lose, on what I get from my resale value. So rather than playing the email game, we've gone out to everybody directly and started knocking on office doors today. So I got some of the information back and it's been decent. I'm just waiting to finalize all the rest of it. So I'll be a little bit more brief and then kind of wrap it up on Wednesday if everyone is so inclined.
Joe, you
Um,
mean Thursday, right?
Thursday.
Thursday is
Sorry.
our next meeting.
Because I already have a meeting tomorrow night.
Sorry. I know we had a second one this week. I got Wednesday on the brain. I don't know why. So for the two big ones in the fleet section for me, the biggest ones, 16 and 17, the two lines there. These are our 6-wheel frontline winter operation Sanders. One of them, coincidentally, we pulled at the last minute last year, and I lost it some point in mid-December in the little packet that I think Phil sent out. If anybody looked at it, it's been in Bedford at the dealer because what we thought was an emissions issue that was wrong with it that needed them to use the computers and diagnose it beyond a level that we can in-house, I think is a blown head gasket on the motor. So it's been kind of sitting there in purgatory until we go through this process and kind of see what's happening with that. So naturally, with that happening, there's a twin to it that's about the same vintage. It has the same motor concerns that I brought up last year. There was a bad batch of motors that came out from a certain manufacturer. We had a few of them. We haven't had an awesome run with them. So I included them here for this. Equipment number 31 is our next size down. This is kind of an intermediate truck. Anything in blue is something that changed from the last version you saw. So this has actually gone up a little bit because of the upfit costs. This is another one that I expect next week to have a better trade-in number 4. What this truck is essentially a smaller version of the two that I just talked about. So not everything is built to drive down every road in Wakefield. So there are some cow paths and things like that that will service in the wintertime that some of our big stuff can't get through, whether it's a width issue or a height issue. So we have one vehicle that's a little bit smaller to be able to do that. That's this one. It's a Chrysler product. I think we've heard the police department talk about Chrysler and some of the issues they've had with reliability there. That's no secret here. And then finding anybody that can work on it when something happens beyond our means is quite a challenge. So that's naturally included in this. And then most of the rest of everything here is just included because it's depreciated to the point where it pops up on our schedule. So truck number 7, it's a 2007 pickup with a snowplow. 89, 2015. So generally we try to depreciate these things out in about 10 years just because of some of the abuse that they see. They're covered in calcium, they're covered in salt. And if you think, your personal car rots out fast, these things are constantly in that environment. So they're a little bit more advanced than that. Coincidentally enough, these 2 top ones here that are highlighted, if they go through, we'd order them as twins so they could be interchangeable. And some of the attachments that go in the back of them, we can get down that road later on. Again, 2009, another pickup truck with a plow that we have. We have a couple of vans on the list this year from buildings. I'll note that one of them is parked out back. It is no longer roadworthy because of some frame issues. So it's literally just sitting. We pulled the plates off of it. And we're essentially waiting for the snow to melt off of it so we can get the council to declare it surplus and we can get rid of the thing. A few more here. So 2 vehicles for our parks department. And I'll break the ice easy. So cemetery backhoe came up this year based on age. We've been having discussions about replacing that. It's a little interesting machine because it needs to do a job that a bigger machine would be better suited for. But because of the weight of the machine, we need to buy something in a smaller footprint so it doesn't crush some of the old vaults and graves.
We lost your sound, Joe, unless it
Joe.
was just me.
Joe, I have a question about the
Hold
packet.
on, Frank. Hold
Okay.
on. Let's get Joe's audio back on. Joe,
Can you
say
hear me?
something.
Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes.
That was weird. All right, where did I cut out?
Right there. I think right
Oh.
at the backhoe. Yeah. Sorry.
So
Yep.
Reader's Digest of that is it came up because of age. This is a machine. It's actually from Europe. It's bought because of the size and the weight constraints that you have with driving over some of the cemetery vaults. I don't think we have consensus here, and the machine's in decent enough shape that if we defer this for a year, it's not going to be too detrimental. So I'm actually going to recommend that and do that now.
Could you tear out any of the other ones? Like, could you prioritize some, like some of these, like obviously the 07. Which one did you say is sitting without plates right now?
This one right here.
Like that seems like you'd want to get, like it would be helpful to understand with the fleet, like which one of these are really, your needs best. And I know all of these are needed.
So
Yeah.
probably going to be more inclined to punt on buildings things. And I'll tell you the reason why. Winter came back this year. And one of the things that we're experiencing, there's like a general apathy related to snow and ice in the contractor community. I think Frank's past life, he could speak to that a little bit. So in 2 years, we went from having 56 people hired to help us in the winter down to about 26, 6 of which cannot go on the road. They're in the schools only. So all of that responsibility is now falling back on us. And I need to put us in the place to be able to A, absorb that, but B, be able to handle anything that goes down. So hence the 2 larger trucks, with the lead times and everything that I think I talked about last time. But I'll do that for next time and kind of prioritize everything with you for that.
Yeah, and if there's any notes like, like on, dead, or high mileage, anything like that you think might help.
I'll give you the whole,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So you think two dumps with plows, those 320 are, because those are 2 huge asks in the same year. You think one wouldn't cut it?
So one's dead. So I'm already down one.
One is
The
dead.
question is, do I replace it or do I pump a bunch of money into something that's kind of been a lemon for me, just to get it running?
Yeah. What's the
Something else
turnaround
to
time
happen
on
down
some
the
of this
road.
stuff? I never ordered a dump truck. Are those more readily available than fire trucks?
No. So these are at minimum a year away from, so sign the purchase order for it. It gets built by the manufacturer and then it goes to the upfitter. And if all the planets are aligned, you get it in about a year. Excuse me. Sometimes that ticks up, sometimes it ticks down. You know, if Mass DOT has an order and they get 75, they might be headed in front of you and you might have to sit and wait a little bit. We don't know. I'd expect though, between tonight and our next meeting that these numbers will change for you.
Okay. Can we get this list before the next meeting?
You'll get it tonight. Yep,
Okay, great. Well, no, with your tier, if you could, take the time to tier it and then resend it would be great.
sure.
Can I ask,
Any questions on fleet? Sorry, Frank, you had a question, right?
yeah, in the packet you sent out today, I'm looking at a 2009 International. Is that a pickup?
No, that's a
It's a
dump truck.
It's a
That's
dump truck.
That's a
Okay.
Class 8 dump truck. Yep.
Where is it on, where is it? You're seeking to replace that.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, so that's, okay. All right. And how old is the one? Is it really, it's a 2009?
I think it's a 2008. I might have wrote that it's a 2009 because that's when we took delivery of it.
Okay. All right. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
So when we look at these, we have two dates. So we have the model year and then we have the delivery date. That's what starts the clock on our warranties and things like that. So this month I'll pick up a 2023. So it's a model year 2023, but to me it's a 2025 because that's when I put it into service.
Just a heads up for the committee, and I think again an argument for why we need some tiering is if we did all of the fleet and then the things that we've already put green on, that's 2.26 million, which is slightly over I think our 2.1. So I think that's the just something to think about. Like whatever we want to say yes to in the buildings, it's going to have to come out of the fleet list.
Joe, do you have like a tier system?
I could give it to you. Yeah.
I think maybe for Thursday's meeting, we can talk more about that. If you can give us some priorities to help us guide that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the caveats, these things are becoming more expensive.
It's crazy. Everything. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a car and I can't believe how much cars cost. It's crazy. So I can't, this stuff like exponentially, it makes sense. It's crazy how much these things cost. Anything in building, it's getting late, so I'm just being conscious of the time, but do we have the energy to go through some of the buildings? Or do we want to go through something else on this list that we could get? What's under buildings? We want to go through maybe FPC. There's not many on that one.
Sure.
This is an easy one. Last year I presented a cremation garden. We've been unsuccessful in trying to fund that a few times. That is, so you see this 3D model here?
No, I see your spreadsheet in Zoom.
I'll send it out to the group.
You might have to unshare and then share, probably.
Yeah, so basically what this is a way to accommodate someone's loved ones vertically if they choose to do the cremation route versus direct burial. We can essentially take something where you put a couple hundred graves and put 3,000 to 6,000 cremations into it. So this 150,000 would be to get the walls for the plan that we have set up, to start the back and then build forward. We estimated last year that the whole thing would take about $400,000. We just haven't been able to fund it now for a few years. At some point down there, we're going to have to look at doing an expansion or slowing the rate at which we sell graves, because obviously space is limited. So this would be something that would help us be able to do that. With this list later on, I'll send out some of the images that I have with this, so you can kind of get an idea of what this is and what this might do. We got a request for the Ewell School to resurface the basketball court. So we included that in this. Our buildings group wanted to do a renovation of the team room at Landrigan. That's here. We have some sidewalks at Hall Park that we identified, as well as the parking lot and some drainage at Sullivan Field. That's pretty beat up. I would say these two right here probably make sense to pull out, and we can resubmit them as a warrant article. And you might even be able to grab the basketball court at the same time if we call it, parks and open space improvements or something like that. The Rockery Fountain, it's a little on the old side. It's a little porous. The pump is kind of funky because it's old. I don't know if Frank Leone, you've had any experience with that yet, but it doesn't drain very well. It's a little quirky. So what we're trying to do is set this up similar to something like you'd see at a golf course where the pump is sitting on a plate or something like that and removable, and then redo the drainage in it so that it's easy to, evacuate whatever's inside of that thing. So that's in there. We looked at the Doll Bear, Maple Way Playground. This one came from Mr. Mayo today. I'll talk to him in the morning to get, all the complete details that he had, but what he was hoping to see through whoever he was talking to is there's a little bathhouse there that could probably use a refresh. And then some other things that have been brought up through the years. They were looking for a batting cage and some other improvements to the park. So I'll get some more update on that. And I'll have a little bit more for you next time, but that's in there as a placeholder. You could disregard TA. It just means it came from the town administrator. So I didn't forget not to talk about it. That's that section.
Yeah. Any questions about any of these?
Forgive the ignorance. What Rockery Fountain is that? Is that a drinking fountain or a feature fountain?
The Minuteman. The
Right
Minuteman
downtown.
statue downtown.
Oh, okay. The Minuteman. Okay.
Yeah. So this would actually be the scope to this would be to waterproof, whether we gunite, tile, use some sort of a membrane, the actual pool itself, new light, new fountain, and then make sure we can install a drain that's going to work a little bit better than the quirky one that's in there now.
That price seems low. I don't know, my intuition says that's low. Is that's what you think you can replace all that with? 35?
Most of it's just going to be buying the parts. Our staff would do the electrical and the install.
Okay.
And then depending on what we decide to do with the drain, if we do so, we would even cut it and install it. I would imagine it'd be pretty simple. 2-inch PVC or something like that with a grate over the top of it. We'd have to do a little bit of cutting, but nothing outside of our wheelhouse.
Yeah, any extra roofing membrane anywhere? Because they just use usually EPDM, right? In ponds and stuff. That stuff can be, some of that can be submerged underwater.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. So you were saying sidewalks, parking lot, and Sullivan Field. Those are the two you highlighted? The Yule just needs to get done. It is not even a basketball court. It's like a ocean wave of asphalt. It's pretty tough. And it's a great area of town. I think it would get a lot more use if it was usable. Sidewalks are needed everywhere. I hear that. The Maple Way Playground, we punted last year with fencing. And what gets me is this is bathroom upgrades / fencing. There wasn't a lot of information on fencing last year, and we talked a lot about it, and we ended up cutting it out. I think there was a lot of unease about what we were, because there's already a fence in the outfield. So like it would be interesting if is this the perimeter fence to Maple Way? Is this the fence in the middle of the outfield they were looking for last year? Obviously know the bathroom. It's not luxurious in any way, but it is functional. So I'm just curious on what exactly the fencing part of that request is, if there's any way to get information for that in the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get that from Steve, like I said, in the morning. If I had to hedge a bet, I bet it would probably be to maybe revisit the batting cages that got deferred. The bathroom part to me makes sense. Take the stalls out, put new appliances in, kind of refresh it. It could probably use to be lit a little bit better. I don't know exactly how well the visual is in there, but I'm sure a couple of LED lights will make that thing a heck of a lot better, for all the softball parents and whoever might be using it. Outside of that, I would think it's the batting cages, but I'll know, like I said, I'll know for sure for the next time we come in.
If you put LEDs in, you'll want to do the tiles at that point. It's almost better keeping it somewhat dull. Doesn't look too bad. Cremation. My cemetery question is, you had mentioned a possible upgrade being needed to the cemetery itself. Are we talking one cemetery? How many cemeteries does the town operate?
So technically two. We operate one, which is Forest Glade on Lowell Street. That's the only active one. And then the one on the Floral Way, we just mow it.
Right. The
Upkeep.
burial ground. Yeah. Okay. So this is for right. This is for the
Forest
one
Glade.
off
Yep.
Lowell. And so if there's an expand, would it make would it be more progress for that to make this a bigger project as a separate sort of, rather than just doing this, like if you're going to have to expand it anyways, is there any appetite to look at a bigger project funded some other way rather than just doing these cremation? And is there a waiting list for these kind of vaults right now?
So no, we don't have any at the moment. Everything that's in there now is buried in the ground.
Oh,
So
okay.
this would be another option. What this would end up having is this would be encompassed with kind of like a repricing structure to try to maybe influence someone to take advantage of this rather than taking up the ground. One of the challenges that we'll have with an expansion project there is anywhere that we have where we can build is way out back, getting closer towards 128, and it's soaking wet. So between the stormwater regulations and things like that, we might not be able to do that. So our only other option would be is to pick off different pieces of the asphalt and actually remove it and start working our way back towards the fence. Um, we looked originally to try to fund this out of the perpetual care to see if we could borrow against it and then pay it back through pre-sale. But the way that that funds the budget and they have it invested didn't make a lot of sense to the town treasurer and accountant at the time.
Yeah.
So we've tried this way a few different times.
Yeah.
Out here.
Yeah, because this
Um,
has come up. This has come up the last couple years, I think. This might be
I think this is the third.
third
Yeah.
year we've seen this request come in.
how many years do we have left? Like, I don't know how often people die. I don't know how often people are buying plots in this cemetery versus the number of technical plots that are still available to sell. Like, I don't know any of the math on that, but are we going to be full up if we don't? Let's say cemetery can't get any bigger, it's stuck where it is, and we're going to reach a point where we don't have room to build the crematorium. Like, what's the, how many years do we have before we're at do or die? Do or, well, anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I don't
literally.
have that in front of me. I could get it. I think last year we called it ask for an angel investment. Um, one of the nice parts about the potential of one of these projects is where we're going to put this is in a place where the groundwater table is relatively high. So once you get past the gates to the left-hand side and even the right for a little while, you're like 2 feet in the ground before you're in the water. So we could put something like this there, occupy the space vertically, and be able to use something that we wouldn't be able to do a full 6 foot depth in terminating. So this would be kind of to maximize that potential first, and then keep anywhere where there may be the ability to go in the ground and preserve that for that. The other thing with this too, a couple thousand of these things, you'd still end up paying perpetual care on it when you needed it. So the revenue then would increase that investment that's made and hopefully offset more of the operating budget there too.
What would you say, like how many vaults would you get out of that with this budget, and about how much do you think that they would sell for?
I have it on another screen that I can't show you. I'll break it out and I'll send it to you. That way it's easier and you can review it. I know the full plan that we had, which is a combination of vertical wall, and we have the ability to go direct in the ground and kind of like a flush marker. We were over 3,000 just in the first phase. So 3,000 of those, say it's $600-700 a piece, and then whatever perpetual care is. So
Oh, you think you get 3,000 volts out of a $150,000 investment?
no, I'm saying we could probably get about 1,500, give or take. Depends on what we bought, what we
Oh,
put in.
wow. Okay.
You'd be north of 3,000 if you were utilizing, direct too. So you'd have, the if you watch Rocky, like Mick is in one of these things, right? So if you utilize that, and then you utilize some of the grounds leading up to it, you could definitely
Right.
put a lot in a small area for sure.
Mhm.
It'd take about a cubic foot if you go in the ground. So you can imagine, those right next to each other are spaced off, 12 inches or whatever they need to be. It is pretty significant.
What's
And
up with
how
the
many?
Landrigan's down for the count?
Landrigan, the team
Is
room?
Landrigan bathrooms, are they closed? Because I thought that one of the pictures said out of order. Is that just one of the, or is that,
I No, I don't think so. That wouldn't be something. I mean, if that urinal is out of order that's in the picture, that's not something that we wouldn't just replace anyway.
yeah,
I think really what brought that up is you see all the construction going on, the field's new, the other bathrooms are new, and then that thing is basically more or less the same it's been since sometime in the 70s. So the building staff just thought it'd be nice to kind of be able to hit that too while everything else is getting a refresh around it.
why don't we see, well, I'll ask this question before we go. Any other questions on, these items Joe just reviewed in the FPC section?
Um, oh, sorry, go ahead, Frank.
Just a quick, the cemetery is, we're talking about is Forest Glade?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Could you just make a little, like, initials so I know?
There we go.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
I know I asked this before, but before we like get into the Yule School, does the town have a plan for that building and the lease? It sounds like there might just be one more year on the lease, so I just don't know if we have a sense of they're going to be gone in a year or they're just going to sign for another 20 years or something.
No, I don't know that. And I actually, after Phil asked last week or the last time we met, I asked if I could get a copy of the lease documents. And at least initially, I have not seen them yet. I think they actually might reside with the school. So I'm not sure what the term is on that, to be honest at all.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
basketball court came up from somebody that, that must be involved in sports or the neighborhood or something like that, and just mentioned that, some of the seams had gaps in them and now have started to grow grass. So it might be time to repaint
Yeah.
the basketball court.
For sure. It was more for some of the other things internally in
Right.
the building, which I know we'll get to.
Yeah.
And I thought Tim, I think earlier said something about like there's 1 year left on the lease or something. So I thought that was interesting. So
Who do you think has the lease? Did you say the school? Do you think the school department has the lease, Joe?
So that was the message that was conveyed to me. So
Would that be Christine as the business administrator, probably?
I don't know how they handle that.
Yeah, or Doug, whatever. Okay. Yeah, because it's a question, right? Garrett brought it up, and it's been brought up before. Like, if we're going to get this building back, what its use, and if we're going to be putting money into abating floor or whatever, like, is all that going out the window immediately because there's intentions to gut it and use it in some way or whatever? That would be helpful for us to know.
So I think
Or
one
should
of
they
the-
be paying for these? Should the tenant be paying for these
Right.
repairs?
Yeah, I don't know what the terms would be. I think I believe I mentioned it. If not, I definitely sent it in some of the correspondence leading up to it. When I was at the town council, their last meeting, I had mentioned for us and probably the schools, because Tim mentioned it tonight, maybe working through this next season, coming into the next year, facilities master plan with the depreciation schedule of some of your major building components would be a fantastic warrant article, I think, because then it basically be a turnkey capital plan. That probably makes the most amount of sense to me. And then you incorporate the leases into that and figure out, what do we want to do with these? Do we want to keep the building? Do we want to repurpose it? Do we want to sell it? Do we
Right.
want to, what's the end goal here? So I think the timing is probably past due, but definitely should be revisited. And I think an exercise like that would really help.
How many
There's
people are in that building?
Well,
I mean,
it's the
during the
Odyssey
day.
School. It's a busy school. There's a lot of people. I don't know how many, but it's busy. It's pretty, a lot of groups of people in and out. Yeah, you know, if it's a commercial lease, 1 year left, the renewal period's coming up if it hasn't already started. So hopefully someone in the town, it's important. It's not under our purview. We're capital planning. We're not leasing, but when it comes to repairs and stuff, it would be helpful to have some background information about it if it can be gathered or what.
On the case. The
Right.
smoke, I'm just waiting to find the fire.
Yeah.
Could be that second preschool they need or additional one.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, wouldn't the client, the tenant have an interest in starting up renegotiation?
you would normally start about a year, 9 months out on a commercial. So I don't know. Again, maybe they've already have. Maybe they're signing a renewal. Who knows? I guess that's some of the information would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Is Dennis, is FPC, are these all Dennis requests? Fazio, he's Parks, right? He's or
Cemetery.
yeah,
Yep. Hall Park and Sullivan, myself and the engineers had. Sullivan Field really because two paving projects in a parking lot that was probably in fair condition to begin with. Really
yeah,
got beat up pretty bad. That area, if you're familiar with it, when you pull in, go past the playground as it starts to turn left, there's a wet spot on the right. It's screaming for a drainage improvement. I think we could tuck some green infrastructure in there that'll really help. Um, so, it's been overlooked for a while, so I thought about giving that some love. Landrigan was our buildings group. The Rockery was the buildings group. Obviously, I told you about Maple Way, and the Walton came from Tim.
we when are we going to see the Galvin Fields on Capitol? I'm actually surprised I was expecting to see him this year, but those need to be resurfaced. Those are compacted 11 years in now. Do we know when those are coming up? Because that's a big expense. I'm just asking for future. I guess not related, but I'm just curious because we're talking different fields here. Is that? Do you know? Do you know if that's coming up, or can that be on someone's radar? I guess.
No, it's definitely on our radar now.
Yeah.
We brought it up before.
It's our only field it's our main field in town for the next 3 years, so it's going to be getting even more use. I just worry about the compactness of it. That
Yeah, so we have an operating line actually every year of 25,000. So we'll actually strip some of the rubber out of it and bring somebody
Yeah.
in to reapply
But
like fresh
that's
rubber
coming
every
out
year.
operating. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's in the queue. I think what naturally will end up happening is you see Beasley, and I know this conversation's being had as far as how official they've been yet. Seeing where the high school project lands, it makes sense we were mobilized to think about doing Landrigan at the time while you're up there doing Beasley too. Landrigan is the oldest of the turf fields.
They're
And
exploring it. They're exploring the cost to design it, and they've had some budget estimates on it, and they're pretty high. And so there's still some discussion on if
yeah,
if the Landrigan's gonna be able to get done, if there's money left over in the high school project. That's been the conversation.
that's going to be one of those. I feel like once you're relatively comfortable where you think your final costs are going to be, that could be at play. It could not be.
Yeah. Okay, it's 9:03, so I'm just being conscious of sleep. So are we okay to call it here? And then we're going to meet again Thursday, and we can have Joe review the rest of his list, and then we can start. We'll have an updated list to look at before, and then we can start trying to cut and seeing where we're at. And then we have 2 meetings the week after. And again, the goal would be March 17th and March 18th. We have booked. It would be great if we could have a goal of March 17th as our final meeting to make so we'll see where we're at as of next Tuesday's meeting to make a determination because we got to invite FinCom to that meeting, and Steve, if he's available. We usually invite them to review kind of where we're at, ask any questions we may have. And then if once we approve, it's got to go to town council and I got to go to town council and FinCom. So I'm trying to get us a room for the 17th for a hybrid, so you can show up in person or have the ability to join by Zoom. Just I have to wait till you get a little closer to find out about availability because the police station room is currently down. So I'm waiting on that just for future meeting info. So
So Joe, will you have information on the Ewell School for Thursday?
Well,
Well,
I'd
maybe
asked.
not. Yeah, I'd say, Frank, let's get through the rest of the list once, and then in the meantime, Joe, if you want me, it's not really my place, I guess. I'd say I could reach out to someone and bug them, but more as a citizen. I wonder if the clerk's office would have to have that, but it's
I don't,
something. Yeah,
I don't know if she does. I can ask Betsy in the morning. I see her every day.
yeah. I wonder if she would have that lease.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it'd be really helpful. So are we okay? Any questions on FPC, or is anyone okay to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
No, who got the second? Who am I going to give it to? I don't know who I heard Frank. I'm going to give it to Frank.
I got it last week, so
You got it last. Okay, we're going to take turns here. Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Okay,
almost ready to
all in
make-
favor, just press leave meeting, and then we'll have everyone have a good night. Thanks so much. Thanks, Joe.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Joe. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, thanks, Joe, Frank.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Guys, see you
Bye-bye.
Thursday.